What's good, folks? Anybody's there? Not really sure if anyone's there yet, but we'll find out, right? And to adjust the microphone a bit. Hopefully the levels are good. I think I'm echoing. That should fix the echo. Make sure everything should be good. If anyone's there, feel free to say hi so that I can make sure everything's good. It's been a long time since I've done this. I'm not like Steve. I don't do this every week. Maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. Who knows? Cool. Excellent. So, gonna be going over some of the stuff I do in immutable file system things. You know, the good old Fedora Silver Blue is the OG, but I'm actually gonna be using something different. I think my loud neighbors might have just went by. Adjusting some stuff here. So, make sure everything should be showing up, right? You guys can see things. So I have this elaborate setup that I conjured together in about half an hour. So we'll see how well it, works and see if it falls over on itself. I'm actually streaming this via my MacBook Pro and capturing my Linux machine via the HD60S Plus. It's an Elgato capture card. Pretty nice stuff. It's compatible with Windows, Linux, Mac, all that good stuff. So it's a pretty good setup. Since I'm doing the Mac, it's not loud at all, just doing its thing. I am streaming over Wi-Fi, so if things go horribly, kind of weird and wonky, it's probably that. Because, Wi-Fi. Ethernet's not really an option in my apartment. It's kind of the layout. It's a little weird. So, kind of what I have. Let's see here. Looks to be okay. Hopefully folks will start showing up. And we can try to get things going. So let me see here. So these are, I'm just checking to make sure I got all this stuff going. Cool. Got this set up. And so I have two displays on my Linux machine here. Only one of them obviously is going through the capture card because duh. So hopefully I'll remember to put things on the right screen going forward, because it can be a little pain, I guess, to remember to put it on the right screen. For those of you who are not familiar, this is Sway. It's i3, but for Wayland. And it's pretty good. I like it. If you're not not a Tyler person, I totally get it. Kind of takes a little extra to go through in that one. Kind of interested as to why oh, because the VA free world. Okay, I was wondering why my Mesa VA drivers were uninstalled, because I replaced them with the things that have the non-free bits in them, because I hate software freedom, I guess. So I was gonna go over some of the ways I use my immutable system here. I know a lot of people have some maybe lack of understanding or perhaps misinformation when it comes to immutable systems. And I get that. They're a little strange. They can be a little off-putting maybe if you're kind of used to a normal way of doing things. It can be a little strange to, I don't know, to kind of see the way they work. And some people have the idea that it's extra work for not really any benefit. I guess that's sort of a value judgment we all have to make for ourselves, I guess. But I definitely think the immutable systems can be really robust and kind of, if not like perfect, because nothing is perfect, but I think that you could build a more robust system based on these, simply because of the compartmentalizing that goes on in the way the applications are handled and the way the like with the containers, you know, they being the distro box or toolbox, as you can see here. You know, using the kind of rollback feature between the different updates. So even if an update does somehow go bad, you can roll back, or maybe, you know, there's just a bug in a piece of software, like the update goes just fine, but you know, there's a bug in the new version of the software and you're just like, man, I don't want to deal with that. Just go back. It's no big deal. And that can be a pretty big benefit for people who might be a little hesitant. I think it would be very useful for people who want to do a rolling release, something like a, you know, Arch based or Tumbleweed based. Tumbleweed has, you know, Snapper for snapshots, and that can be basically kind of the same idea, right? I feel like the atomic updates are a little more robust because the update either goes through or it doesn't. And, you know, with the way Tumbleweed does things with Snapper, it can be useful for rollbacks, but if the snapshot or, you know, the kind of, you know, update or whatever goes kind of cactus on you, then you don't really have much of a choice. You just kind of gotta eat it and hope for the best. Whereas the atomic updates, it's very much a more stable way of doing updates in general, because the update process either fails and you don't get the update and like you don't roll to that image, or the update goes forward and you can then reboot into that image. No, not Twitch today. I figured the Twitch audience may not care about my Linux stuff. How's it going, Steve? Let me know if the audio is bad or anything, dude. So I figure, you know, like either the update goes well or it doesn't, and you don't have to worry about kind of having that in between of a broken, you know, system or whatever. And so I feel like that's a more robust update thing. Thanks. Good times, Steve. I'm just talking about some immutable stuff. Figure maybe people could enjoy a little information about it, at least from my perspective. I know there's kind of this confusion that goes along with these systems and maybe a misunderstanding of how they're used. So I figured I'd show how I used it and go from there. So right here on the screen, I have kind of listed out a few things. So I use a combination of DistroBox and Toolbox. They're kind of interchangeable. And I think DistroBox is a little more flexible. Hey Don, how's it going? And so DistroBox is pretty useful for the most part. I think Toolbox, you know, comes with these Fedora Immutables distros, so it can be a much easier way to just kind of get a container up and going. But layering on DistroBox is extremely simple. It's just simply, you know, RPM OS tree install DistroBox. It's already in the repos. It's pretty up to date. My lock screen happened. And so, yeah, it's pretty great. Let's see. Steve says, so Vanilla's OS is setting our grub set up to boot either A or B. What do you think of that? I think that'd be great. That's kind of the same way here with Silverblue. So let's actually test that. I have my machine connected to a capture card, so it should output some of my BIOS stuff. Hopefully it won't be too messed up when I reboot here. But yeah, you can with the immutable stuff, you can see in the grub menu the different entries, and so those entries will you can choose the previous rollbacks or images that you wanted. So I think Vanilla OS letting you boot into A or B is actually a pretty great flexibility thing. And like, I think from a normal user perspective, just if you could fail to B, that's fine too, or fail to A. But it's also from a user experience thing where you can kind of choose the version you want, right? And of course, it doesn't go to the right device there, so you can't even see the grub menu. Excellent. So yeah, the grub menu just has you'll just have to trust me. The grub menu has, my Sericea, I think it's called Sericea, something like that, Sericea, which is the Sway version, and then it has the Kino White entry. So I could go between the two. So like I was just in Sericea, so if I go back here and I select my Kino White, should boot into Fedora Kino White, which is KDE Plasma. And it's kind of nice to switch between the two through that. And you can always just rebase on one or the other. So if we go in here, you can see this is you can kind of see this is primary here. Throw this on top because that's where it's actually laid out. Cool. So yeah, so this is, Plasma, right? Like I didn't reboot into a different distro. This is still like Fedora. This is still the same install. I still have the same files and stuff. But so if I open up console here, you can still see I'm in my home directory with all of my files, and it's the same layout, partitions, the same home directory, the same everything, but I can swap between environments if I want to. And if I want to, track one of the, the kind of branches, as it were, so like Kino White for Plasma, or Sericea for Sway, or Silverblue for GNOME, you can do that. So I think right now, if I do RPM OS tree status, shows I have Sericea as the one that I'm currently tracking, and then I'm currently in Kino White. And so like I can just rebase on either of these, and it will then follow the updates for that specific platform. So if I rebase on Sericea, whenever I do an RPM OS tree update, it will give me the newest Sericea. But then if I rebase on Kino White, it'll give me the new Kino White. So like you can go like Sway or Plasma, right? And being able to swap between those is a pretty awesome thing. I mean, I have the same, my applications for each of them, and it just swap between them. So you can, use Plasma just like any other thing, and the same distro box, list here is still there. So like all this stuff carries over, and all I have to do is just swap, reboot into kind of the environment that I want, or rebase into the environment that I want. You can make kind of customized environments through, CI jobs and stuff. It's a little more complicated than just downloading, but there are existing ones that you can grab that are great. There's one called Voxite, which has XFCE, if you're one of those people. Not a fan of XFCE at all, but if that's your thing, that's your thing. There's some Mate ones out there. There's a project called Universal Blue, and this project is started by a bunch of folks, and it's a collection of container images for Fedora. So these are used for rebasing to them. So a lot of these have cool customizations. Like in these images, you'll have the different types. So let's say like you'll see there's a Budgie one here. So you can have Budgie main, which is going to have all these configs, like these customizations, and then Budgie NVIDIA. So you'll have one that will already have the NVIDIA driver built into it. And these are built using a CI job in GitHub. So every day they rebuild these images. So you're getting the latest one every time you update. So if the NVIDIA driver updates or any of this, you'll get the latest stuff. And you can switch between these because you just rebase to them. And so like they have, Kina White there. They have an LXQt one, Mate one, Silver Blue, Cericia. Their Bluefin is sort of a, it's basically like Fedora customized like Ubuntu. And then, Voxite for XFCE, a UCore one for CoreOS if you need that. This Bazite one, I'll actually show you in a bit. There's two different ones. One's actually meant to be a distro box image, and the other's meant to be a distro, like a distro image. The distro image I think is not really ready to be used, so I'm not gonna go into that. But if you show here, they have like their features that they add. So they add they start with the Fedora image. They add hardware acceleration and codecs. They add distro box. They add UDEV rules and service units for things. They add libratbag for Logitech devices. Here's like a whole complete list of packages they add. Automatic updates and staging. Flatpak update twice a day. And then of course everything else is just stock. So like they add these kind of extras onto the image, and that lets you kind of get these customizations that probably a lot of people would already do, through RPM Fusion or RPM Fusion or something like that. And so this is kind of a handy thing. They have some tips and tricks here about how to do things. So I'll probably do one of those a little later. But right now I'm just gonna go back over into the terminal here. And if we go into DistroBox, enter, and we'll go into Bazite. So this is their custom DistroBox container, which you can see over here on the left is Bazite Arch. So it's an Arch-based container with a bunch of gaming things in it, like Steam, right? So like if I start up Steam here, you'll notice it loads up Steam just like any other. Load it up on the wrong monitor. So like you see it loads up Steam, and this is all running in the container. And I can go in here and start up a game. See if it starts on the right monitor. It doesn't really matter. I can always move it. And like a Sega. So I have, hopefully it's not too loud on you. Oh boy, that's loud. Oh boy, that's loud, huh? Sorry about that. I haven't been able to test that yet. But yeah, so this game is running from the container in DistroBox. And it's running perfectly fine. And so you could say, well, you could always install the Flatpak of Steam, right? Well, there are some like nice tools, like Mango HUD and others that you might want to customize on like a normal distro, right? And so running those in the box, you can make those customizations that you otherwise, wouldn't in the Flatpak, right? And so it's kind of a nice way to handle things. So like you can have, your game configs or any number of things that you normally would use. Let me close out of this. anything that you normally would use in a container, you would then use in the distro box container. So you're not limited to just whatever Flatpak lets you do. You can do so much more than just what Flatpak lets you do. And Flatpak is the generally preferred thing for installing packages, though, right? Like it's going to be the easiest. It's going to be best maintained, probably, depending on the distro box you choose. But it makes it a little more flexible, and it's hard to imagine that a containerized environment like that would actually produce results that are usable. But surprisingly, yeah, they are very usable, and you can do a lot with them. So I'm still in here, I wonder if they have, I don't even know what all they have in here. I don't think they have anything in user local bin. No. And so, the Steam. So if I go here, there should be a, yeah, so now there's a .steam in my home folder. So because the home folder is passed into the container, like they're kind of connected to each other. Whenever I'm using Steam in the container, my games still exist outside in my home folder. So if I had Steam on, say, my base distro, or as a Flatpak, well, Flatpak uses a different path, but the games can all still exist together, right? So if I use this container on Kinoite, or if I use that container on Voxite or any of the other desktop options, that container has Steam in it. It just goes wherever anything else goes. As long as DistroBox carries it, it's good. And that lets me switch between environments without having to think, oh, well, I left this application on my KDE version, or I left this application on my GNOME version, because they're on their own. They're in their own world, and you just call them as you need them. And so it really makes for a very portable experience as well. Surprised your son didn't come. Yeah, because of the Sonic, right? Yeah, guess he would have heard the song and the rings and stuff. You guys have any questions at all? I'm more than happy to answer them. I know there's probably like a slight delay in the chat there, but if you have any questions or comments, or want me to try something, or some edge case that you might have, I'm more than happy to give those a shot. Oh, because I'm in the container. Yeah, duh. And so you can see the container still running because I didn't stop it. I just left it. Control D. Can you pull down a full image of a distro in the way I set up DistroBox on Peppermint? Yeah, kind of. So I can actually show you how I can do that. So if I go in here let's go to that universal blue thing. So if we go to their image list, so they have these images, right? So let's see. Let's try one that I haven't tried. Let's do. You know what? I hate myself, so I'm gonna do Voxite, which is XFCE, right? So we'll go to 38. We'll do the latest, which should be 38. So RPM OS tree rebase, and then they give you this image, so I can zoom in here. So they give you this image right here. This is basically the command you would use. So I'll grab these. I'll just drag 38 just to make sure it works. So I'll copy this. I'll go over to my terminal here, and I'll paste that command. So it's just RPM OS tree rebase, and then the location to the image, right? And so it's going to go out. It's going to fetch this image from, in this case, GHCR is GitHub's container registry. So it's going to go out and get that container, and it's going to rebase our system on that container. There may be some config problems because they have a very custom thing, and they specifically said something about not having things layered, but we're going to see if it happens anyway. Well, if it goes bad, we'll just go back to the other one. Audio will auto route from the container to the base. Yes, it will. It does indeed. All of the audio you heard from the game was coming from the container. It was coming from Steam in the container, and then routed to my machine, and then out of my machine to the capture card. So all of the audio will reroute as per whatever you set your system to. If you tell it to go out your headphones, it'll go out your headphones. If you tell it to go out HDMI, it'll go out HDMI. And also the Fedora images, when you choose official Fedora images, they go a little faster download than this. Because this is coming from GitHub's container registry, which ain't exactly quick. But yeah, the audio will go wherever you tell it to. A lot of the device stuff is kind of passed through, so your graphics card is passed through, so you can easily work with it. I know DistroBox was having a bug with passing in NVIDIA to their containers. I don't know if they actually fixed that or not. Unfortunately, I don't have any NVIDIA hardware to test that. Or maybe fortunately, I don't know. Depends on how you look at it. Let's see. Yeah, it's... Sometimes you have to restart it because, again, GitHub's container registry... So it's not restarting, it's just starting where it left off. GitHub's container registry can be a little wacky with rate limiting. But if you were doing this with official Fedora ones, you wouldn't have this like failure retry thing. It's just something weird about GitHub's thing. Because I experienced it myself when I built some custom containers that I was pulling from, and they would do very similar behavior. It's just kind of weird. Keep trying. Because you can see it says, layers stored 48, needed 17. We had, less needed last time, or less needed this time than last time. And so it's slowly getting there. Am I better off with something like Silverblue and doing things like this? Am I limited with, say, Peppermint and tossing DistroBox on it? I would say... I'd say there's nothing wrong with using DistroBox on Peppermint. But I feel like DistroBox really shines on an immutable system because you kind of get the combination of the solid base and the atomic updates along with the flexibility of DistroBox. If running DistroBox on just Peppermint works, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not going to like not work or not do what you want, but it just seems kind of like less, I guess, to me. Like, I feel like you get more out of running an immutable system with atomic updates and rollbacks and things, and then having the containerized on top of that. Like, it seems a little more portable, seems a little more flexible. Whereas, like, Peppermint is just always going to be Peppermint. Yeah, right. So this is upset that I have already overlaid those things. So let's see. I'll remove all my overlays as far as these others. Let's see. RPMOS tree, uninstall RPM Fusion, free release 38-1. Currently requested. Oh, is it because it's a local package? Wonder if I have to specify. I have not actually removed local packages. This is an interesting scenario. Let's see. Let's see what reset does. I've never done that. You added those, yeah. So that's the Cericia. So it's switching to Cericia because I am currently tracking Cericia. Is it removing the RPM Fusion stuff? Probably not. Don't think so. Okay. So I did the changes, but I have not actually applied them. So, all right, there we go. So let's so I did the reset. Let's do a systemctl reboot real quick and see where we go from there. Kaboom. Yeah, see, that's the great thing is it wouldn't be Kaboom because I still have the others. If this somehow went bad, I could just pop into the others. No big deal. It's kind of handy. So yeah, I think I think having the advantages of the immutable on top of the advantage of the containerized is kind of the kind of double whammy, right? You know, you get you get to double dip into coolness. But DistroBox would work perfectly fine on Peppermint as well. It can be a good way to have kind of a slower base, like, you know, Debian or an LTS Ubuntu, and still be able to get your, you know, newer packages and newer things from, say, an Arch container or a Fedora container or something like that. So there's still advantages to having that extra environment there. Kind of like destroying Vince and then being able to yeah, despite our best efforts, he keeps coming back. So I'm booting into Thericia now. So this is the image. Let's open up a terminal here. We'll do RPM OS tree status. So the one we're currently in has no overlaid packages whatsoever. That's exactly what we want. So we can try that rebase. So let's try to rebase on the Voxite. So, you know, I had all my other applications like 1Password and stuff that were all overlaid. When you do the RPM OS tree reset, it just reset everything. It didn't add. It took all of my overlaid stuff and got rid of it. So now you can see it's going to, it tells you kind of what's happening with what it's going to be doing. So you can see it installing, you know, XFCE and all this stuff in the image. And then, you know, what it removed basically. So like what doesn't fit in the new image versus what's in the old image. Downgraded a couple things. No big deal. Because they're probably older because they're built different. So let's see, we'll do a systemctl reboot. And then we'll reboot into Voxite. And it should pop up with some horrible looking XFCE, no doubt. I have not seen what they have done. They did their own kind of customization to it. We'll find out. And so it's kind of like distro hopping without the reinstalls. How large of an SSD should one have for this? I'm running this on a 512 gig, so I don't know. I think you can get away with smaller. I think you can get away with like 500 or less. Probably anywhere between 256 and 500, probably fine. So you can see here we're in XFCE. It's really that easy. It's one command, and you're into a new environment. You just one command, reboot, bam, you're in. It's like distro hopping without all of the hassle of repartitioning and reformatting and moving your data, because all of my home directory data is still here. All my stuff moves with me. Like everything is here where I left it. Are the distro boxes starters or... Yeah, I'm gonna have to have you rephrase that one. Because I think a cat walked on the keyboard there. that comment went crazy. And so, you know, this is their customized thing. So they probably have all the codecs and stuff already installed. And some other nice tools, right? So if I open up, hopefully this is Firefox. Yeah, so this is Firefox. As you can see, it left off, you know, where I left off, because it's all the same stuff, right? So if we go into like YouTube, let's see, go to so this is the latest video from Digital Foundry for Jedi Survivor. So you can kind of see here, it's running great. We can check
the interior looks evened out somewhat, with subtler distinctions between light and dark. The lighting setup is mostly similar, but a few spots have had artistic tweaks, like the corridor to the mechanical room, which is now mostly...
So you can see that the hardware decoding here, hardware video decoding, enabled by default. So I'm getting full video acceleration in the browser. And like, it's all set up for me, right? And so I can still, if I can remember how to use XFCE, because I really don't use this at all. So I can still see my distro box. My distro boxes are still there, right? So I can still, you know, I can still launch my Steam and stuff from here as well. So like if I do a distro box, enter Bazite, starts it up, runs it, do Steam again. And you can do the distro box export as well. So if you just want it in your menu, that's perfectly fine. It'll add it to your home directory application. So every time you go into a new place, it's already on there. We can see here, if I go back into Sonic Mania here. And by the way, I have my Xbox Series X controller connected up to this, and it works just perfectly. That's how I was playing earlier. So even your peripherals and all that pass into the container, and it works spectacularly. Like, and so having these kind of containerized things allows them to be more portable alongside just, you know, just being kind of separate. If you want to switch between the environments, you can. And some environments, you know, people are more comfortable in. You want to try something out, you can do that. So once again, same game, working just fine. And so, kind of get the idea at least. And like, that was the same game, the same everything that I was playing in Plasma a bit ago. And here it is in XFCE. So I feel like it's a pretty good use case, right? The question then, if for those of you who are watching, would you consider swapping these images, distro hopping or not? Because like, that's where I'm a little confused. Like, it's a totally new environment, but still technically Fedora, but it's not. It is, but it's different each time. So like, is this like spin hopping? Is this distro hopping? I don't really know. I don't know what people would consider that, but and yeah, so like that, you know, that would be a container that I could use for you know, my gaming stuff. And I could have another container that I could use for building things or just converting video, right? So like, if I make a new distro box, we'll do a distro box create image. We'll use library Arch. We'll use Arch since we can, and we'll give it that already exists. So I'm gonna give it a new name, and we'll do Arch FFmpeg. Right? So it'll create a new distro box called Arch FFmpeg, and we'll go into it. And also, yeah, magic in the real world does exist, Steve. It's really awesome. I know it's like, I talk about it to people, you know, whether it be the Saloon or in Telegram or Discord or whatever. And it's really hard to kind of get across how I use it, because it's such a different way of using a computer than most people are used to. but I think it's a really valuable way to use it. So I'm here in this Arch FFmpeg, so you can see like pacman's a command, right? So if I do pacman syy, we'll grab these, then we'll sudo pacman, and we'll grab ffmpeg, right? So I'm gonna give it pipe wire, that's fine. Wire plumber's good. And so I can install, yeah, it is like a digital IC dock, right? It really is. It's really great. So I'll go ahead and install FFmpeg in here. And what's cool is you can, I could run an FFmpeg conversion thing, right? So I have, let's go to my videos here. Here's, some WebM that I have here that I was testing with. Actually, so this right here is this 2023 whatever is from right here is a video that I took in OBS. So I'm gonna rename that. I'm gonna just call it just OBS test.mkv just to make it easier to type. So because I am mortal, I can't remember commands to convert things in FFmpeg, so I'm gonna look that up. FFmpeg convert H.264 to HEVC. Cool. So I'll grab somebody's random thing off the internet, which is such a good idea, right? Everyone should do this. Always copy off the internet what you see. No, only copy things you know what's going on. And so I'm still in the distro box, right? And I can use it to run this command. Let's see what it does. States of backups on distro box saved when spun up on multiple versions. Yeah, so so you can back up your distro box images completely, and then whenever you change environments, like you change images, and those distro boxes will still be there. They move along with you. Distrobox, I believe, holds its images in your home folder because it's a user-based thing. They're unprivileged containers generally, so they don't need to be stored in a root space. So they stay in your home directory. So any kind of backup you have for your home directory will also back up your distrobox containers, as far as I'm aware. So, so I have that, nice command there, but I can back out of here and do a distrobox ephemeral, and then let's check the help here. Let's see. It's not distrobox. It's dash ephemeral. That's it. So this is a way to run a container temporarily and then destroy it afterwards, right? So, so you do the distrobox ephemeral, the name of the container, and then should be able to just run the command from there. Let's see. At least I believe that's how it works. So if we do a distrobox ephemeral, and we'll do dash name arch ffmpeg test docker.io library arch linux latest, and then the XSE terminal is a wacky application. So we'll do dash name arch ffmpeg test. We'll give it the image docker io library arch, and then I'm going to paste that, and we'll input is OBS test.mkv, I think it was called. And we're gonna do output MP4 is fine. So let's see if it takes this. Let's see. Wonder if I can use an existing container instead. We'll try. No. Okay. So I'm not really sure the structure of this. The idea is to run a command on a container and then blow away the container. I've never actually used this. I was doing this kind of live. But you can still, you know, go into your other. So if I go into distro box, enter archffmpeg, I can go in here and there's, you know, the OBS test KV there. And I can paste in just like normal. I probably just needed quotes or something. I don't know. You know, and just let it do its conversion. Shouldn't take too long because it's not that big of a file. Yeah, it's like a 3-minute file. So I'll let that run, and you know, you can just open up another thing. It's still doing its thing in the container and just move on doing other things. If I knew how to use XSCE, that'd be great. So like that's kind of a way that I would use containers. So like I would have that container with, you know, FFmpeg for, you know, on Arch, so it's the latest version, and maybe I just use this container for video conversion and audio conversion without having to worry about, oh well, what about Fedora's version of FFmpeg, or like the lack of free codecs or any of that kind of, the lack of non-free codecs and all that stuff. It's like I can just do it in the container and not have to worry about it polluting the rest of my system or anything. Flatpak has an advantage of that as well. You know, there are certain Flatpaks that let you do that. I think the advantage of using the containers would be you have the flexibility to do things like you would on a normal distro. So like, you know, FFmpeg may not be the most advanced example, but if there's, you know, maybe you have to build a piece of software like from source, just creating a container and building it in that container, the binary itself can still exist and the source code can still exist in your home folder, which exists outside of the container as well because they're connected. But you can then build the software in there and not have to worry about all of the development libraries and other stuff that generally pollutes the place when you're building stuff. You can have it all separate. And, you know, like I'm in different, you can see the Bazite is still running. That's no problem because I can always stop it, right? So distro box, stop. Bazite. Yeah, go ahead and stop it. So it won't, you know, won't chew up any RAM or anything. And these are very lightweight overall. As you can see, I'm using 2 gig of RAM, right? It's running an FFmpeg conversion in a container. I have the full desktop. I still have Firefox open and all that. It's like using like 2 gig of RAM. Like it's really not as heavy as people might think. As far as the disk usage goes, what's great is the root partition gets kind of overwritten. So you don't really have to worry about it like taking up a lot of space, right? Because every time you rebase on a new container, it's just overwriting your stuff. So your root partition just kind of stays as it is, and your home folder is really where most of the action would happen. But as you can see, like some of these are all sharing different partitions, right? So this is the 500 gig SSD I have. So my boot is a separate partition, but then like home and var and all this is separate from like sysroot. And I'm not using that much space at all. I'm using 40 gig out of my 500 gig. And that's with the different like rebases I've done, the distro box containers, the apps I've installed, all of that. I'm only using 40 gig. So, I mean, you could comfortably have a good workflow on even like a 250 gig SSD. 500's plenty, obviously. Any more than that, and you're just, you know, depends on what you're installing, right? If I install a bunch of games, obviously I'm going to need more space, right? Because games are huge these days. But it's much more lightweight on resources, and it's a really lightweight on storage. Like people kind of, yeah, I understand being worried because, you know, the idea is like, oh, well, there's all these distros in these containers and there's all these distros in these images. Like, surely you're just running out of space. Well, no, I'm good on space. and it's great. It's really flexible. It's really robust, and like I'm in XFCE. If I wanted to, I could just reboot back into Kina White or back into Cericia, depending on what I have. So like if I look at my RPM OS tree status, I have my Voxite and I still have a Cericia image. And you can actually specify in your RPM OS tree config how many of these images to keep. So I'm currently keeping like 2, but the current one and the previous one. But if you have more space and you're fine with it taking up some extra space with the snapshots there, then just 3, 4, however many, and just like go back and forth between them as you need to. That's perfectly cool. And when you want updates, you just rebase on the one you're on or the one you want to be on, and you'll get updates from that one. And so it's a really flexible system, and I hope that me showing some of this helps. And like I still have like Flatpak, right? So like Flatpak's still a thing, and I can do like a Flatpak search. Let's see. Celluloid, I think, is a so I can still install Flatpaks, right? So I'll do a Flatpak install Celluloid. It's like, hey, is this the right one? Sure, looks like it to me. Go through, it's gonna download and do its thing just like any other Flatpak thing does, right? And you get all this, and it's no big deal. It's like awesome, right? Like I get all my Flatpak applications. So if I open up they're not using the whisker menu by default. That's kind of gross. I feel really awful clicking through a menu like this. That's a big no-no in my book. But so yeah, here's Celluloid, right? This is a Flatpak I just installed right there below it, and works just fine. If I go in here to home, this was the I guess it finally finished converting my H.265 version, and you can hear Don talking really loud, but we'll kill the audio here. And so it's playing just fine. There's just some capture I was doing, testing some GPU decoding things in browsers, and it works great. So you get like all of these layers of ways to get things done, but it's also ways to get things done in a safe, like layered manner that doesn't interfere with one another. The Flatpaks don't interfere with the base system or the containers. The stuff you do in the containers doesn't pollute the overall system. And as long as you keep your layered packages under control, which you kind of layer them as like a last effort, right? Like layering is kind of a thing you do at the if you have to kind of thing. Like there's certain applications that you have to layer on and some you don't, and just switching between them is great if you're pretty flexible with your layering packages and like that. And then if you get in a situation where it's like, man, I've layered on all this stuff, it's like it's going wacky on me, you just do an RPM OS tree reset, blows all your layered packages out of the config, doesn't include them at all. You reboot and you're in like a fresh default setting, like a completely default image. None of your extra stuff that you added layered onto the base. All of your distro boxes are still there. All of your toolboxes are still there. All your Flatpaks are still there. All your home directory is still there. But you basically did, like on those Windows laptops and stuff where you get that recovery partition. It's kind of like that, where you just reset and you start over, but you keep your data and your apps in place. And they're separate from the system, so you don't have to worry about them messing it up. It's great. It's great. I love it. It's really the way a system is built, in my opinion. It should be built. I get it's not for everyone. I get there will be edge cases and workflows that don't work with this. But damn if it ain't awesome. As you can tell, I get excited about this. So, any questions, comments, anything? Anyone else in the chat want to chime in with their 2 cents, 3 cents. Let's take a look at this bluefin they got going on. I'm kind of curious. I think this is supposed to be based on, it's sort of like to emulate an Ubuntu, right? So we'll throw this. Of course, we got to go through the GHCR download mess. That always fun. Thanks, Steve. I try. Maybe people will see this and they'll try it out. They'll see some of the stuff I did, get inspired, and just like jump right in, you know? Like I personally have not been excited about Linux in a long time. And this whole paradigm shift, all of these tooling, all of the stuff that the community has done around this idea, it's really like invigorated me. There's so much to be had here. And I love it. And it's not just me. Like, I'm not creating all this stuff like by myself, right? Like, this is all, you know, there's plenty of people. So like, shout out to this Universal Blue guys. Universal Blue, it's ublue.it. Like, these guys are awesome. The community and the folks behind all of these do some amazing work. Like, this is such a cool project that they've embarked on. And like, I'm excited to see what else they build. And, you know, all the folks at like Fedora, you know, the Fedora group, Fedora project, who work on Silver, Blue, Kino White, all these different spins. Shout out to them. They did such an amazing job with the tooling, and the thing is so solid. Like, I know there are other, you know, up and coming immutables, right? There's, you know, BlendOS and Vanilla are kind of trying to make it a little more new user friendly, and I get that. I feel like those approaches might reduce flexibility, but we'll see. But those could be really good for regular users who are used to kind of a flat distro approach. And then, you know, OpenSUSE's got micro OS. They're definitely coming along with that one pretty well. Like, there's just a lot of hype, and there's a lot of good energy in this section of Linux, and I love it. And there will be naysayers. There'll be people like, it seems kind of too much work, and what does this do that mine doesn't, and I don't think I need that. And I totally get you. I get you. If what you're working with is fine, if you're totally happy with what you got, cool. Keep doing you. Do your thing. The existence of the thing that I like doesn't mean the thing you like disappears. Keep liking the things you like. We should all like the things that you like and not feel guilty about it. You know, I don't think I'm like some immutable hipster. I'm just a dude who loves the distro. It's cool. Yeah, it's a freedom killer. Hey, you know what? I think they're wrong, but I you know, maybe time will come and there'll be a time where they're like, a lot of people are doing this, you know, if it's so bad, then maybe I'll give it a try. And they might try it and it doesn't work right for them because they're used to the old way, and maybe they'll come back to it later and they'll be trying something new. Yeah, it'll be great. Vince. But there's so much good stuff going on in this space, and it makes me excited. So I just rebased on their bluefin. So this is bluefin. This will be their kind of, they label it as a Fedora for Ubuntu expats. So people who I guess didn't like the way Canonical moved things and they want to move over to Fedora but still feel comfortable. Yeah, he does that. Look, man, if leeches work, all right? Like, don't hate on the leeches if they do what they need to do. But oh yeah, and I guess kind of a side note, I'm actually running, streaming this from the MacBook Pro. and I'm actually rather surprised at how well it's working. Oh, that was noise. Yeah, so let me move this over. So this is obviously GNOME, so that's why you don't see anything, because it's not mirroring the displays. Do a mirror there. Oh wow, that did something. Cool, let's just not do that. That's awesome. I couldn't like do that on purpose if I tried. That was cool. Okay, so let's hit this. This should be the Elgato. Change this resolution because it's set to like 4K. I don't know why it does this. Good job, GNOME. I'm so proud of you. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. Like again, I don't think I could do that on purpose if I tried. All right, cool. So now it should be all set up. I'm actually curious how the icons look. Okay, so the icons are all messed up because the home folder still exists with the KDE stuff. So switching between GNOME and KDE can be a little wacky because of the home folder stuff. If you want to switch over to GNOME like for a long time, just move your KDE stuff, just back up your KDE stuff into like a tar and just, you know, get it out of the way. And it'll just restore your icons. But right now they're kind of messed up. It's not their fault. So yeah, it looks like they have like, you know, the dash to dock thing going on here and all this. So we'll check out their, hey, welcome to Bluefin. Cool. This modify your Flatpaks if you are rebasing. If you do not want to do this, exit the installer. You know what? Let's do it. I'm down for it. It's just Flatpaks. So let's see what they do. Cool. So like they have, you know, options for all these different Flatpaks, I guess. So the core ones, gaming, streaming, etc. So just gonna let it install the core ones. Let's see what that does. Gotta do some work. Yeah, working sucks. Yeah, the Hypno Toad, right? And so this right here that it's installing is just installing some Flatpaks automatically for me. And that's fine because it doesn't modify my base, right? So if I roll out, you know, and go over to Plasma or whatever, no big deal. Those Flatpaks are still there and they're totally separate. If I want to get rid of them, I can get rid of them. You'll also notice that because my network manager user stuff is still there. So I've never had to re-authenticate with my Wi-Fi. Every time I've rebased and tried another image, all of that still carries over. So I didn't even have to sign into my Wi-Fi again. And my username and all that stuff's still the same. It's so much better than distro hopping. If you're like, you just want to try out a new interface, so much better than distro hopping. The only caveat being switching from Qt to GNOME can be a little wacky with the icons and stuff, but that's less of a Fedora problem and more of just a GNOME and KDE not getting along thing. Or, you know, you could have a separate user, right? Like you could have your user for GNOME and your user for KDE stuff, and you swap back and forth. You just log into the other user. Simple. Then you never have to worry about them getting polluted. So when you want to use Silverblue or, you know, some GNOME based stuff, you log into your GNOME user. Of course, that, you know, kind of complicates the managing of data, but it's an option. So it looks like we're running, yeah, installing just some GNOME stuff. Hey, Big Pod, how's it going, man? How's life? Yeah, oh man, the Ublue stuff is awesome. They did such a good job. That community is awesome. I love the work they're doing. okay-ish. Okay-ish is better than bad, so we'll go with that. Cool, so that's complete. Install more. There's the website, you know, one that I was on earlier, and their Discord. And then now you just have like a fully functioning. So this would be the. Yeah, this would probably be the, yeah, this is the flat pack version, right? So this, I think this probably hid my base one, but got laid off. Oh man, that sucks. Sorry to hear that. That's rough to go through. A lot of people from your company got laid off, or just you, or just like your team? Yeah, like I said, some of this stuff gets kind of messed up because switching between plasma and this can have an impact on this stuff. But let's see, some of us not even sure. Man, I mean, I guess you could look at it as you know, more projects. That's an option. The glass half full approach, I suppose, right? So I'm just showing folks how I use my immutable stuff and how I can just kind of surf between things, right? So I apologize for the eye-searing white terminal here. This is just, you know, wackiness with GTK as usual. So yeah, like uBlue has a pretty awesome little setup going on here. So I'm curious if yeah, so I guess they hide the Firefox from the system there. I'll have to see about reverting that. Yeah, it definitely has. It's Fedora. Yeah, so right now they have the Flatpak. It got replaced with the Flatpak version. At least on this one, it's sort of a custom container where they do their own thing to it. So I'm just gonna rebase on something else, see if it pops up. If not, I know they have some stuff on their side about doing that. So we'll see about how that goes. Because I know it's probably like easier to sort of track the Flatpak than it would be the base image. My issue with the Flatpak is I use a password manager that syncs with the browser, and the Flatpak kind of interferes with that. So I tend to prefer the one that's baked into the system. I mean, I can always just layer it on if I need to, if it's somehow got unlayered, or if it's just not included in this image to begin with. That's also a thing. So how's it going, Larry? You doing all right? Hopefully you're doing well. So where were you working, Big Pot, if you don't mind me asking? You don't Feel free not to answer. It's fine too. Yeah, that's what I thought, Big Pod. You're probably right. Yeah. Are you working with the UBlue team? The UBlue folks? Working at a startup? Yeah. A lot of those kind of got hit hard. Oh, that's awesome, Big Pod. Maybe one day I'll be capable enough to contribute. It is George Castro's version. Yeah, it is. And I'm currently rebasing back to Kino White because I want to see if his. I'm curious, like, to kind of see the difference into what he's doing. Oh, Vince is back. Hey, Vince. They have I like how the location is Antarctica. That's such a good touch. I love it. Yeah, it's such a good project. I like it. Yeah, correct. Yeah. So it's just adds a lot of customizations to kind of be a little more Ubuntu like, I believe is the description. So is the stream quality all right? Is it buffering at all, anything like that? Any issues? Kind of streaming over Wi-Fi, so no idea how it's gonna go. Wi-Fi 6, but that don't mean much. Must be a neighbor of Eris. Oh, Antarctica. Yeah. It's kind of neat just seeing like how much you can customize these and how much stuff you can really do with them. That I love this kind of projects. How's your day going, Vince? Doing all right? If you guys have any, questions or comments or whatever, feel free. I know just chatting right now. It's kind of cool while I'm rebasing. Big Pod would probably be really helpful for answering this, and Larry as well, because I know Larry runs this stuff too. That's a good point, Vince. Yeah, that's a very good point, Big Pod. Like I was playing around with the UBlue stuff in my own GitHub repo and all that. It was really cool, kind of the customization. Some of the stuff I ran into problems with, namely like my 1Password RPM I couldn't get in to work in the container to build, but maybe I'm pretty sure my source was based on the UBlue stuff, but it's based on older stuff, so I should probably just like redo those and on newer code. Kind of the advantage of the open source thing, right? Bit sucky. All you gotta do is just shit your pants, man. Just shit your pants and they'll go away. Is this a Ublue and Fedora Core OS? Oh yeah, yeah. Core OS was, yeah. That's kind of like the container workflow OS, right? Like run container stuff on top, kind of like a single user OpenShift kind of thing. You know, it's really awesome to see like Big Pod and Larry, like you guys using this stuff too. Because like, man, it seems like every time I bring it up to people, they just glaze over, and it's not their fault, because I feel like there's not a lot of information out there. There's not a lot of good information to kind of connect for regular distro users and immutable users. And so I don't really blame people for not really understanding, but it's awesome to see other people who also enjoy them and use them. Yeah, right. Just give an open PO. Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Larry. When you're on a toolbox like Podman and install Debian. Can you run a Debian program on it? So I know like I've used DistroBox for that rather than the toolbox. Can you run GTK stuff? Yeah, pretty sure you can. I know like graphical apps work. I was actually running Steam earlier out of a DistroBox container. And so it's kind of nice. Yeah, you can have those graphical apps as well in the containers. I can demo that in a second when as I'm rebooting the box into Kino White. Kind of a nice thing about using a capture card and all this on a separate machine is I don't have to be like, oh, I can't reboot because the stream will die. So yeah, I'll show you, Vince. Let me log in here, and so if I open up a console here, distro box, enter, and this is actually a the distro box list. Oh, that's right, because the Ublue stuff, right? So that's simple. I can actually show you now how I installed DistroBox on top of this. So this is like a fresh image, no layered packages whatsoever, right? Rupert, I got you, Big Bob. That's some energy right there. Yeah, Ublue does. So I rebase on the Kino White, right? But not the Ublue Kino White. So here you can just do an RPMOS tree install, and then you can install DistroBox on top, and this will layer it onto it, and then you can just reboot. So this is how you do it with like a plain Jane image instead of like kind of a CI image, like cloud-based image, like Ublue is doing. So it's going to go through. So if you were to use just like the straight Fedora, like Fedora Kino White, Fedora Silverblue, Fedora Cericia, all those, and like just plain, then this is the way you could install DistroBox onto it. TZ data? I think I've seen some issue with like the time zone stuff before. Oh yeah, definitely. I've seen that error before. Never really got an answer for that. let's try to, I don't know if this will actually work, but do an apply live. Yeah, so that one applied live. That's great. So now I can do distro box. Might have to reopen the terminal here. Distro box list. So you'll see even after distro box itself was removed, my images are still there. My containers are still there in my home folder. So you can do is distro box, enter, and this is this Bazite Arch is one that the uBlue folks build that has a bunch of gaming stuff in it. So I can you can see here on the left I'm in Bazite Arch right here. And so if I go and start Steam here, and you can do a distro box export to add it to your menu if you want. I'm not really that worried about it right now. And so it'll start up Steam. Then go in here, and then there's like, you know, a bunch of games. I was previously playing Sonic Mania here because it was, you know, quick to install, quick to run. And I have my Xbox controller connected via USB cable here. It's one of the Series X controllers. And it runs just great from the container. And so if there's any kind of customizations you need for like plugins or, you know, whatever you need to use, emulators, that kind of thing that may not have a flat pack, or maybe you just want to run it in the container for whatever reason, you can, you know, play your games. And you can see this is good old Sonic Mania playing in distro box container. Immutable gaming at its finest. What do you think of Steam Remote Play? I've thought about using it with my Steam Deck, but I haven't really tried it yet. I didn't know if the Steam Deck's Wi-Fi hardware is really that good for that. So yeah, as you can see, Vince totally runs games. So you can have, you know, your gaming stuff all in its own container, and you don't have to worry about it polluting other things. Oh, you do what? Okay, yeah. Do you have like a computer in the living room or something, I guess? So yeah, if, is there anything else, anybody? Steve, anybody? I know Vince just had to hop away. You were talking about the Debian thing. Let's get out of the throw box, create. Is that a... Do you remember which version you were using? I think 12 is the latest, is it? I don't know. I don't know what the like latest is. 11, I guess. There's some window games that don't work with Proton, but I want to play. Yeah, I hear you. Is 11? Cool. Would help if I spelled DistroBox right. Yeah, most of my gaming I actually do on console these days. Okay, the only real PC gaming I do is pretty much on my Steam Deck. Although, I mean, I have a gaming capable machine. I don't know. I have a lot of problems with mice and stuff, and I use a controller to play everything these days, so I generally just play on console. It's just easier for me, I guess. So I'm in deb test. What were you trying to install, Larry? What was the application? Mousepad? So when I tried to do an upgrade, it did complain about the TZ data, but I just chose not to upgrade that and install mousepad anyway. So here's mousepad running in the container. The mousiest of pads. So it works. You just have to not bother upgrading TZ data. I understand those files are a little complex when it comes to container stuff. Oh yeah, definitely. I feel you. I feel you. It took me a while to get used to a controller, and the main reason I switched to controller and console stuff was because I just started developing really bad RSI from using a mouse and keyboard. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, I love mouse and keyboard especially for first-person shooters, but you know, you got to do what you got to do when your body says no. So, but yeah, I get you. It took me quite a while to like get used to and become proficient with a controller. And Kino White also, for those of you who prefer like graphical applications, Kino White does integrate the flat packs and other things into Discover and the GNOME software as well. And so here you can actually see your various, yeah, you can see this is like the version I'm currently used. This is the fallback version for operating systems, and all the other Plasma goodies that come with it. Yeah, so the Bazite, I wouldn't try the Bazite like desktop. I think that was supposedly like really experimental, but the Bazite distro box container should be fine. A Big Pod might be able to speak more to that, but as far as I understood, that one was a little much. That's fine, whatever. Just couldn't pull the image. I don't really care. So again, like it just failed to pull the image, but that doesn't mean it left me with an unusable system. Yeah, so Bazite desktop still work in progress, yeah. And so it's just kind of nice to see all this. You know what, Nate? I can use Plasma, I can use Sway, I can use GNOME, I can use anything and not have to reinstall. That's really awesome stuff. Switch into a Series X and use a mouse and keyboard. Oh yeah, and the mouse and keyboard stuff on the Series X is kind of limited to certain games too. It's not every game. Maybe the game you wanted to play would support it, but it's not every game. It's kind of hit or miss sometimes. But yeah, so how's it going, Nate? You doing all right? You have any questions about immutable thingamajigs and how I use them? I did. Not only did I schedule the stream, but I also posted it in the Linux Saloon. But I guess somebody doesn't check their own chat. But whatever. I mean, I'm still streaming, right? So if you got, got any questions, you can get it in. I'm still going. Gnome. It's all good, my dude. Next time I'll DM you. I'll be like, Nate, I need you to be here. I need you. You need to be here, and you'll be here. It's kind of like Beetlejuice. Just gotta say it 3 times, and you'll be here. So I gotta say OpenSUSE 3 times. So pulling the image from GitHub is a pretty easy step. You can just, so I'll show you. So there's a nice project called uBlue that BigPod is actually a part of, which is awesome. Here it is. It's called Universal Blue. And right, Big. It's a good point. So without tech for the evening, that's not a bad thing to do. So this project, Universal Blue, allows you, they kind of pre-build some stuff. And so they have their own images here. Like I'm currently on Kino White, which is not their Kino White, but like the base Kino White, right? But if I wanted to say switch to, a Mate version or these other options, right? I could just use their, so like here is their, like their Mate one here, right? So you can switch between whichever one if you have NVIDIA or don't have NVIDIA, and you just use this simple command right here, RPM tree rebase, and then the path to the thing. Yeah, I like that term, with batteries included, right? So like I'll actually show you, Nate. So if I copy this, because that's what this stream's about, right? It's about showing stuff. So if I copy that and simple one command, right? It might complain because I already have distro box. We'll see. It's no big deal. I can always uninstall it. And so it's gonna go, and you can see here the ghcr.io address at the top here. That is GitHub container repository. No, I have not. So all of you who are here, do you consider rebasing on images the same as distro hopping? Like, would you call that distro hopping? Because technically it's still Fedora, but it's different Fedora. So would that be distro hopping, or is that not distro hopping? It's a semantics thing, but it still applies. Base hopping, yeah, I like that. It's kind of like base jumping, but you didn't commit. You just kind of hopped. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I might just do like after I download the image, I might just do a reset and go from there. Distro box hopping, that's that's also an option, right? Just hopping between containers, right? And so yeah, I get these like IO timeouts from GitHub, but that's not a fault of RPM tree or anything. It's just GitHub stupid, probably rate limiting me or something, They used to be very open about letting people just grab stuff, and I have a lot of problems with getting rate limited on GitHub these days. Yeah, it's too free. Actually, I pay them $10 for Copilot, so they need to give me something. Right, yeah, Big Pod knows. It's just, that's just GHCR being GHCR. Right. And even if you paid like for, you know, GitHub Pro and all this other stuff to like get more access to the to GHCR polls and CI poll, all that, it doesn't even make a difference. You're still gonna have this problem. Like it's a servicing issue, right? But so this is kind of the idea, Nate, is that these are being pulled from GitHub, from the UBlueOS guys, and then it's probably going to complain because I have layered packages, but I can always just do a reset, and I'll show you that in a second if it complains. And once it has all of the container layers and the container itself, you're just rebasing on that, and you reboot, and you're magically in the new environment. Which I know is not something you would do, because why would you leave the Plasma one, right? So yeah, I'm kind of expecting it to throw up at me because I have DistroBox layered, and they already have DistroBox inside the thing, but I guess right here it just says DistroBox is already provided because I already installed it through a layered package. But not really the ideal when you're using their images. You might want to do a RPMOS tree reset with their images, I guess. So yeah, finally downloaded the image. This is the Mate one I think I chose. And so I do a systemctl reboot. And it'll reboot the machine. And then once it comes back, we'll be in Mate land, Mate land. Matt E land. In case you're curious, Nate, this is going through a capture card into another machine. So the other machine is doing all the streaming bits, and my Linux machine is free to do its Linuxy goodness. That's how I'm able to reboot during a stream. Oh, are we gonna have a black screen? Is that what's gonna happen? I wonder if Mate just wasn't having it. Yeah. I wonder if yeah, I don't think Mate was happy about that. About my my setup here. What do they use? Light DM? Yeah, this is why I don't use Xorg, guys. So here's a good example. So this is all went cactus, right? This all went cactus on me. It's no big deal. I can just reboot and then select the other image, because, you know, this one didn't work because Xorg is the worst. And so I'll just hop back into Kinoite, and we'll be back in Plasma, where all dreams come true. Yeah, Xorg really did well that time, Nate. But yeah, so like I'm back in Kinoite, even though, you know, like the Mate thing went all tits up because of my hardware, right? No big deal. Just roll back into Kinoite. Just rebase on Kinoite if I wanted to. And but anyway, that's the idea. If I was using something that I think I actually already have the GNOME one, so Let me rebase onto their Kino White one. So it is a whole new way, yeah. Yeah, GHCR is in fact worse than Xorg. Somehow. I think it's just like, yeah, Mate is not really my thing. I think ultimately what it all went wrong is I don't think Xorg plays well with the capture card, going into the capture card. But that being said, XFCE didn't have any problems. So what does that say about Mate? Anyway. So any other questions? Any other ideas? Things I should try? Any edge cases you can come up with that I can try to throw against the wall and see what happens? On the rat poison version. You know what? I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure there'll be plenty of versions coming. So like what's something you would do on your machine, right? So this error that I keep getting is not serious. It's trying to pull from GitHub container repository, and like they rate limit you, and it's GitHub being GitHub, man. It's only specifically with GitHub. If you pull like an official one from Fedora, you don't really have that problem. But and yeah, you can. If you go to they have a thing on their site here about making your own. Sorry, I was looking for stuff. See, there was trying to remember where I saw it. Like you can download their ISO and it'll help you like grab the one you want. They have a Discord. They have all their stuff on GitHub. So, you can kind of build your own stuff off of it. So here's their this is their starting point. So you can kind of go through this repo here. And kind of build your own if you understand CI stuff, I guess, to kind of be a nice nice help. But it's a great product. I love the stuff they're doing. Oh, that's good, Larry. Excellent. Yeah, and just there's so many really cool uses for this. So something I did earlier, Nate, as an example, was I created a container. So created a container called, I don't have DistroBox on here, I guess, because I need to layer it. So I created a container called like Arch FFmpeg, and that Arch FFmpeg container had, this FFmpeg and all the stuff that it throws up on, right? There's tons of, dependencies and stuff for that. And so I just created like, an Arch based container that had all the latest stuff, and I can just use that to, convert files in my home directory, like convert videos or convert audio files or whatever, and not have to worry about the rest of my machine getting polluted with all those. So whenever I do an update to my base system, I don't have to worry about it grabbing all my FFmpeg stuff too. And like maybe there's an issue with those, or maybe there's a library conflict or any of that. If I were building software, having my build dependencies without having to worry about virtual envs and other, all this other stuff, you can just have a container with your build dependencies and just build your stuff in the container and not have to worry about all the conflicts that can come with that. Yeah, understanding OCI containers, having the right container files and all of that, kind of a big part of it, right? But it's just like the workflow that I have, like I try to compartmentalize like the things that I do into containers rather than think of them as distros. I think of them as workflows. So like I have one container for this thing or one container for that thing, and that kind of is how I separate things. Right, yeah, exactly. Because sometimes like the flat pack of Zoom will just totally crap its pants, and just putting in the distro box, getting a different version helps. So GHCR stands for GitHub Container Repository. So when you build like a container, like a Docker container or OCI container kind of thing, which they're basically the same thing, you can store them somewhere in a registry. In this case, GitHub hosts a registry. So GHCR is GitHub's container registry that you can pull from for the public. It just has a lot of rate limiting and weirdness to it. That's why I keep having these things. Yeah, I mean, that's a fair argument about the limitations, but I don't know if it always holds up. Right, exactly. Yeah, maybe the the billions and billions of dollars they make could go into a little better infrastructure instead of into certain people's pockets, but that's not what we're here to talk about. Can you run snaps? I don't think so. I have not seen snaps work with these, and I know specifically by something that I encountered with Steve was the snaps got in the way of DistroBox. So this is in fact the actual uBlue image. So if I do a RPM OS tree, and it looks exactly the same as normal because it's still Kino White. And so in here, this is in fact the one I'm currently on is a Kino White thing. So it should have DistroBox already installed. Yep. So there's my distro boxes. And I can jump into those and just do things like like I was telling you, let's see. Yeah, so sometimes I get this error. Sometimes I don't. Hard to say. Something weird about DistroBox. It can do some weird stuff sometimes. And so I'm in the, so I have FFmpeg in this Arch container. And so I can do my converts. So like, let me see here. I know I recently did, Graham. Yeah, so this right here was a command that I ran. So this was not the entire command because there's only part of it that I need. So this is like, you know, standard FFmpeg command to convert a video file, right? So we'll just do OBS test x265 and it'll run FFmpeg in this container. And so I don't have to worry about FFmpeg, a certain version that the base distro is running, or having to layer FFmpeg into Fedora and all that, or having to use a graphical tool. I can use the same FFmpeg I always use and use it in the container and not have to think about all the mess that it creates. Because if I open up another tab, you can see I'm in my just base Fedora install up here. And if I do FFmpeg, it's there. Because I think it's because it's probably included in the image. But, so if I do, yeah, so this is, they included in the image, so making me kind of look silly. But, yeah, it's just that kind of, I guess they include it for the sake of codecs and stuff. But you can have all that stuff exist inside the container and not have to worry about the rest of your machine, or worry about having to layer it on and having to worry about updates to it, etc., etc. Does DistroBox have a list of available containers? They do indeed. So let's see, DistroBox, create -I, and there's a nice list for you if you want to take a look at those. So if you do just -I to specify the image and you hit tab a couple times, it'll give you all the options you got there. So there's Oracle, Debian, Alpine, Arch, Clear Linux, Debian, more Mageia is in there. Mageia, whatever you want to call it. There's some Ubuntu stuff, Slackware, Amazon Linux, a bunch of RHEL and Elma, Fedora, OpenSUSE. And those are not all the options. Those are some options. Interesting. Those are the ones I tab out, and those are the ones I use, I guess. I don't really have much of a need outside of the few that are on there, but there is OpenSUSE, yeah. So if I do the OpenSUSE here, and I'll grab Tumbleweed. So does that work with DistroBox? Is like just will DistroBox install like the dependencies and stuff for running in any OCI image? Because I'm curious. I think I had tried a previous image and it didn't work, but might have been something I did wrong. I had imagined there were specific images that they knew to work with the application. And those are the ones that were listed, but that's just my guess. Ah, okay. So any OCI distro container that will run in Podman will run there. Cool. I think it's a handy list to, you know, what's available, but I guess heck, if you can find an OCI container of it, it'll work. So yeah, now if I do DistroBox, enter Tumbleweed. I'm guessing Zipper's taking a bit. Looking at my OBS stats, I've already streamed like almost 9 gig worth of data. There we go. So now I'm in Tumbleweed, so parallel printer support's available. But yeah, any stuff you want in OpenSUSE is right here. Doesn't DistroBox already supply that, like through the exports? Like, can't you already export from DistroBox? So like if we'll use mousepad as an example here. Oh, having it done like when you install it, okay. And so DistroBox export to mousepad. I think it needs to be app, right? All right, so I did the DistroBox export app mousepad. So now mousepad should show up right here. It says mousepad on Tumbleweed latest and opened. SUSE. Pretty much. So were you? I don't know if you were around. I was playing Sonic Mania in a DistroBox container. I have Steam installed in there, and you can just open up a game in there. So if you have maybe a certain custom Steam with maybe some gamepad drivers or something like that, that'll work. Oh, you did not see that? Well, this will be like the 4th time, and I'm good with that. More Sonic Mania, the more the better. So I'll enter my Bazite Arch here. So this is an Arch container that I have Steam in. And I can export it and add it to the menu if I wanted to. I just haven't done that on here. So I can go in here, it's running Steam. Hit play. I have my Xbox controller connected to the USB port. And it'll play. So let's see. What kind of performance overhead is there? 0. Yeah, just like I have not noticed a single performance issue at all, and they're very lightweight too. Like you don't need a ton of RAM or space to really run this stuff. Like you can get by with a normal set of RAM, normal SSD space, and everything. Nope, this is it's a Steam running on Arch in the container. There's no performance hit. Yeah, it's not a VM, so it's not gonna have the same like VM type overhead, right? Oops, missed it. I needed to die anyways, I can get more lives. Performance hit. And this is all just running out of a DistroBox container. There go all my rings. No. So yeah. And that's running the game in the container. And just to show you that I was in fact in the container, I'll you know, Pac-Man SYY, like it's Pac-Man, it's Arch, but it's in Fedora. And I get the advantage, like, so DistroBox can run on like non-immutable systems, right? But I get the advantage of the immutable base and the atomic updates and the rollbacks and all of that along with it, and I don't have to sacrifice my normal workflow. In fact, I get the advantage that these distro boxes that I'm running, these distro box containers that I've been running, they've carried with me every time I rebase. If I want to rebase on KDE, if I want to rebase on XFCE or GNOME or whatever, those still there. They're still in my home folder. So they, every time I rebase to a new environment, it carries over all of my stuff. If I rebase to Fedora 39 when it comes out, I just get the new image and all my stuff just moves over. I don't have to worry about reinstalling. I don't have to re-image. I don't have to get a USB stick out. I don't have to do any of that. It just runs. Now, one thing I haven't tried is, which I could try actually. I don't know if, sorry. I don't know if Big Pod's actually tried this or not. Or maybe, I'm sure he has, you know, working on the stuff. I'm curious if you can install libvirt. And Virt Manager and all those. I don't know if that works on here or not. Like in a container. That'd be kind of an interesting one. It does work in a container? So if we run Virt Manager here. Oh, unable to connect to LXC. Yeah, I don't care about LXC. Not worried about that at all. It's failed to connect. I have to start libvirt. That's right. Yeah. Thanks for reminding me. Interesting. So yeah, that's a good point. So no system D. So you wouldn't have upstart either, right? Start by hand as daemon. Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah, libvirt d-d. Cool. So now I can hop back in here and try a user session maybe? Yeah, there we go. So yeah, cool. And you can create your virtual networks and all that good shit. So I'll go ahead and like see hypervisor options to connection. Yeah, so I'm sure it's a more complicated thing to run in here. I imagine layering libvirt would probably be easier than doing the container, right? Yeah, the container wouldn't generally have systemd, right? Connect to remote host, auto connect. So these are, so this is, you know, running it through the container, but I imagine if I just layered on libvirt, it'd probably work a lot better. So if you wanted to run VMs, just layer in libvirt. So I'll actually, let me see. So right now I have 3 containers running and plasma. And we'll see. I'm using 3 gig of RAM with 3 containers running and plasma. And all the, system stuff that comes along with it. That's 3 environments that are up and running, right? Yeah. That's what you're saying. Yeah, just adding it. I feel like, adding it to a custom image or just layering on it would probably be easier overall. Though the cloud native thing is awesome. I feel like that might be beyond a lot of folks, but are there 4? I mean, including the one I'm on, right? I was saying I have like 3 container environments running. Not 3 total, right? There's the one I'm on, which would be 4. Right, yeah. One moment. Cool. So, and Nessa brought me something to drink. But yeah, like it's so awesome the kind of stuff you can do with these, right? And so I know Nate, you were here when I was trying to rebase to Mate, and it totally went tits up. So I'm gonna try another one. I'm gonna go to a vanilla kind of thing here. So I'm gonna rebase on Fedora 38 x8664, and then Ceresia. So this is the sway thing that Fedora provides. This is not the customized uBlue one. And so this is the official like Fedora sway, which is i3 on Wayland basically. So you can kind of see, if you're still around, you can kind of see how you just sort of rebase and then reboot, and you're in the new environment. You don't have to go through the whole process of reinstalling, with the USB stick and everything. You just hop environments this way. So you do some CTL reboot. That'd be a pretty cool job. That sounds like a pretty cool job, Big Pod. I'm doing platform engineering for an insurance company, but I love my job. Just it's just real bummer you got laid off, man. That sucks. And so yeah, here we are in Sway. Like it's that simple. If you saw, Nate, like, do the rebase command, reboot, bam, and this is all my original config because my config files exist in my home directory. So here's the config, just carries around with me. And it's like so much easier than than just reinstalling through a USB stick and everything. Welcome back, Vince, by the way. Hope your day's going all right. Yeah, so Larry, if you're on the Cerisi out here and you get tired of it, want to hop over to XFCE or Plasma or any of those, it's just a rebase away, man. I hope for those of you who've been here tonight that it kind of cleared up some stuff for you. If you wasn't sure how like this interacted with that, or what was capable, or kind of how I use it, or how people would use it. Like, this is kind of it. And you can still use Flatpaks. So I use stuff like Telegram Flatpak, Discord Flatpak. All these all these others that they work just fine as Flatpaks, and like that's the easiest way to install stuff, really. Just install the Flatpak. But if the Flatpak doesn't work, or you need a little more customization, a little more tinkering, hop in a OCI container in the distro box. Just hop in there, do your thing as normal, and your base is always going to be solid. You'll get the updates, you'll get the transactional atomic updates, you'll get all of the rollbacks. Earlier I tried to jump into Mate, went tits up, so I just rebooted, went back in the menu, chose Kino White, Plasma, just rebooted into that like nothing ever happened. No issues at all. Totally work. The previous one was working, let's just jump back to it, and then just rebase on the previous one. The recovery from a problem is great. The updates don't apply unless they completely successfully apply, so you never have to worry about being that in-between state of like, it was working and it was supposed to be working, but something went wrong in between. It either gets applied or it doesn't. And if you're using something like Universal Blue, their stuff is built up in GitHub. So if the build is going to fail, if something is going to go wrong, it's going wrong up there and never even makes it down to your machine. So there's so many ways to kind of avert crisis. and even if it's a matter of like, it all works, right? But say the software version you got just has a bug, or the new kernel version has like a weirdness to it, just roll back to your old one. Like, no big deal. Just hang out there. You can even use RPMOS3 to pin specific ones. So you can roll into it, say like, this one works. This is the one I started with. I know it works. You can pin that image to the list and it'll keep adding other images, but you'll make sure that you always have that one image still hanging around, that no matter what happens with the others, you can roll back to that old one. That's an option too. So there's so much flexibility with it. It seems silly to me when I hear people assert that it reduces flexibility, that it reduces their ability to do things, and I feel like it actually enables newer and more useful ways of using a computer. But I'm coming up on 2.5 hours, so if anybody has any questions or comments or whatever, now's the time. It'd be the kind of the last call for questions and stuff before I hop out. Right, exactly. Thanks, Larry. Yeah, I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it quite a bit. Thank you, Big Pod, for your input and the work you guys do on the Universal Blue stuff. It's awesome. I love it. And thanks for showing up, Larry, Vince, Steve, Nate, everybody who showed up. Don, appreciate you guys. And yeah, just yeah, guys, if you're really interested, hit up Universal Blue. They have an ISO that helps you like start out. That's probably the easiest way to jump into this. I think they got a lot of stuff that included on it. Maybe check them out, and then once you kind of get to grips with the way it works, you can start deep diving and everything. It's a great project. So, well, I'm a head out, guys. I appreciate everything you do and the community and stuff. And I will I'll check you guys later.